This is Business Talk, your business, your success. Sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed are those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given is not intended to replace that of your business advisor. Now, let's get down to talking about your business, your success. This is Business Talk.
Good afternoon, Peg.
Good afternoon, Pete. Great to be here today.
Yes, in beautiful Central Ohio.
I love it. I love it.
Yep.
So thank you for listening. Pete and I have been doing Business Talk now for a few years now, right? I mean,
we have,
golly gee.
several years.
We've been with Alan,
Yes.
our producer, Alan.
Thank you, Ellen.
And what we do is, what we talk about is that case studies, examples of how you can grow your business, whether you are an executive, whether you're a manager, whether you own your own business.
Right.
And we're going to give you tips and ideas. Now, we do have all of our archive shows on our website, which
At
is
takeactionbusinesscoaching.com.
There you go. So today,
There's a little icon in there that says Business Talk. If you click on that, you'll see a lot of past shows.
and
by
they're all
topic.
titled, yes, by topic. And
Right.
so what we'll do is our format is usually we go to good news and then we jump into our topic. So our topic for today
Is dealing with, and this is hurricane season, or at least the end of it, is dealing with hurricane employees in the workplace.
I don't know anybody who has any issues with employees' challenges.
Oh, nobody has challenges?
No, just you guys listening, just some of you.
Yeah, just
Other than that, everybody
a few
else.
of you
Yeah.
outlier people.
Yeah. So as a coach, we deal with a lot of teams. Obviously, that's what we do. We deal with a lot of leadership development, training, programs, alignments, and we deal with some crabby employees, and we help turn them around. That is what we do.
Yeah,
When we go
it's
into
some of what we
organizations,
do, yeah.
we do it through education, figuring out how it applies to your situation, and making sure you do it.
Making sure you do it right. And we work with large companies, so Fortune 500 companies, in some capacity. We do executive coaching in
Right.
those cases. And then probably 3/4 of our business, 2/3 to 3/4 of it is mid-sized businesses, so 20 to 200 employees. And there are a lot of businesses in Central Ohio.
So true. So true.
Right.
So Pete, should we get into the good news?
Let's get into the good
Let's
news.
get
You're going to
into
like
good
these. I got some good ones today. So most of this is out of the Wall Street Journal, some of it a couple other places. But number one, Shanghai tests the slider. White Castle hopes rising taste for beef and smaller portions will bring in customers. So White Castle is in China, is what I'm saying.
Oh,
yeah, they're
my.
opening restaurants in China.
Love
White Castle
it.
opened 2 new stores in Shanghai just this summer.
Oh, yay, White Castle. I mean, who doesn't love a White Castle?
And they interviewed somebody, a Ms. Zhu, who was 19 years old.
In
and
China.
Said, in China. And she said, she's 19 years old, I can eat 3 burgers here, whereas I can only eat 1 at McDonald's for the same price.
I love it. That is really neat.
Isn't that great?
That's a
Way to
great
go,
article.
Columbus,
Yay,
Ohio.
Yay, White
Huh?
Castle.
Come on,
Oh,
man.
I love us going over to China. They're lucky they get to have White Castle
And
now.
you're going to like, this is international good news. Now, this next one is really cool. Now, we had a terrible earthquake in Mexico City.
Right. And now
several
Pete's
weeks
showing me
ago.
a picture of a dog.
I
Is
got
it
a
a dog?
picture of this cute Labrador, and it's a short-haired Labrador, but her name is Frida, 8-year-old Labrador, and it's a picture of her with goggles on. She looks like she's flying a World War I airplane,
that's a
like
good
Snoopy.
description. Good
you know?
description.
And she's got her collar on, and she's got a harness on so they can grab her and pull her out of places, and she's got these booties on that protect her feet, and she's sniffing for people that are still alive, or probably remains of folks that are in the. And she's like a hero, and it's interesting because she weighs 70 pounds. She's covered in yellow fur. It's the most popular public employee in Mexico City. She's covered in yellow fur and likes to chase rubber balls. And her name is Frida. She's a Labrador sniffer dog and works for the Mexican Navy. And she has done a heck of a lot to save people and recover people and find people that were still alive. Anyway, and it's been a way for them to focus on some of the more positive things instead of the tragedy, which is
a
bad,
lot. Right.
Yep. Anyway.
Oh, my.
So, way to go, dogs.
That's good news, Pete. Now, you do all this research. I love it.
Yeah. Then the next one, you'll love this one. This is a short one, but manufacturing activity in the United States hit a 13-year high in September. Now, that's pretty darn good.
That is pretty darn
Strong
good.
demand and order growth rode out the hurricane season. So we had a bad hurricane season, and some things that I've read in the last few weeks is that the hurricanes, and for people who lost their homes and those kind of things, it's bad. in the long run, like a year from now, it may actually mean an increase in economic activity because of all the construction, particularly in the Houston area, that they have to do as a result of the hurricane. It may actually be a net positive when we get all done. They did say in another article, and I didn't bring it with me, is that the improvement in building codes, especially in Florida, have really helped reduce the amount of dollar damage. Huge.
I've heard that. I heard that. Just with this, you mean with
from Andrew back in whatever that was. Andrew was
like 10 years ago?
10, 15 years ago, maybe. They really changed the building codes.
And it helped with this hurricane.
Yeah, directly.
Good.
I mean, it directly helped.
Well, I like that.
Yeah, and then as everybody knows, the stock market's still,
still doing well.
Yeah, doing well.
Still doing well.
Yep, it's doing well.
That's great. That's
all
great.
Right, so there's our good news. So again,
I like that good news.
We're going back to our, we've got employees, and we love our employees. And every once in a while, we have an employee that can cause a disturbance now and then.
Yes, and I want to tell a story. This happened, oh golly.
It's story time, you folks.
It's story time. I always like, what we do is, so Pete and I have been coaching the last 12 years. So and so we have all kinds of case studies that we like to share. And so I was, one of the products that we use is called Teamkeeper.
Right.
So Teamkeeper
software,
is a software where we go in, and you could even just use this through us, where we do an anonymous survey on the culture of a company.
The person taking the survey is anonymous to the business owners.
Exactly. Thank you for that clarification, Pete McDowell. So they take a survey, and you can come back with, and there's 4 different areas that they take. It takes 10 minutes, and it really tests the culture of your company.
Yeah.
And one of the things that this just recently happened, and we were looking, and it can even divide. So let's say you have one manager that's over 6 people, and another manager over 7, and another manager that might be over 8.
So different groups.
Different
work groups.
Mm-hmm. Well, it can measure the culture of that group against the measure of the entire company
to
see. And so we were looking at the results, and they said, explain why this one person isn't as good as the other management. The results weren't. And I said, I'm going to
from their work group.
From their work group.
Yeah.
And I said, let me tell you what happened with him is he had one negative person in his environment. And it wreaked havoc on his culture. One person.
And usually, and I think I'm getting what you're saying, is that usually that person themselves may be negative, but they almost always spread it to others.
That's exactly it. And we saw it on the culture survey. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. And then since then, what was good is they, what do we call it? They deselected themselves and they became an alumni. So in other words,
they're not working there anymore.
They are not working there anymore due to their own decision. And we are going to take the assessment again in 6 months. And I can guarantee you that it will be better.
This work group will have improved.
Just because we had I like the havoc in the workplace, the hurricane employee. They were a hurricane employee.
Wow. This is Business Talk with Peg and Pete, and we're business coaches. And I've got an article here that relates to this directly. It's
about culture.
About culture. Boards wake up to company culture. Now, they're talking about big companies here, but what applies there applies everywhere.
It really does.
They said directors at Whirlpool, for example, they're taking their culture more seriously. They want to make sure that workers feel comfortable giving bad news, and they're doing internal surveys to ensure that they understand how the culture is developing, either good or bad, out in the company. They've formed board culture committees. And if you're thinking about this, culture describes the way values and actions create a unique business environment. It's how the team works together and with people outside the group, but primarily how they work together. And a recent study found that, and I'm reading right from this article from the Wall Street Journal, in the management improvement section, is that they talk about a positive corporate culture improves company profits.
And I'm going to go back to that culture survey we did, and this company was a little over 100. I asked as you look at the different departments, the culture of one department came back more positive, better results than the others.
Right.
And I just asked the simple question.
And oddly enough, yes.
Yeah.
I know.
Who makes the most profit?
Which department's the most profitable?
It's not an accident that it was the same department that had the best culture.
Isn't that funny?
They do go hand in hand. And a lot of times you might hear the languaging of, oh, we don't need that soft stuff. Or what about culture? We just need results and bottom line. Well, that is the bottom line.
Uh-huh.
And I'm telling you, listening to Pete and I, we do this enough where we can see a direct correlation with culture and profit.
And the other concept, and I'm reading right out of this article, it says a strong culture, and we agree with this completely, a strong culture offers a powerful source of competitive advantage. Because when you think about it, almost any industry out there, you've got lots of competitors. Why are people going to buy from you versus somebody else? There's 10 other companies they could find to get the product or service. If you have a really strong internal culture, that almost all the time that customer is going to get better service and more friendly service. They're going to have things done quicker and better, and it helps everything.
Well, because the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So the way you treat your employees, you're teaching them to treat their customers or your customers that same way.
Yeah.
And it's how we treat internal and external customers is your culture.
Right. It's how we work with each other and how we treat each other as human beings.
So when we return, we're going to talk. We'll finish up on culture, and then we're going to continue to dive into the hurricane employee.
Ooh.
To learn more about today's topic, call 614-306-7922. Now, back to more business talk.
All right, so we're talking today about hurricane employees.
Ooh, I love the sound effects.
Sound effects, man.
Really, really bad.
That was a good sound effect.
Now there's a couple coconuts that just hit the pavement. Did you hear that?
Well, we're having fun with this and nothing else. I love it. Well, Pete and I are
Thank
coaching.
you, Ellen.
Yes, thank you for the sound effects, Ellen. We run into this so often with teams.
We do.
And so often I'm sitting here, guys, you listening, I know you're shaking your head saying, oh, we know.
I've been there.
I've been there.
Maybe you're still there
I've
today.
been with Phil. There's a Phil, or there's a Sarah, there's a Sam, there's
or
somebody.
a Cecil. Yeah, right.
Or there's somebody who's had that hurricane employees, and here's the danger, is doing nothing.
Yes, that's the worst danger.
That's the worst danger you can do.
Peg, tell me the danger. What is the downside of not dealing with it?
So
or dealing with it excruciatingly slowly?
Okay, this isn't me guessing. This isn't me just reading a book.
This is your own experience.
This is our own experience of what we've seen in other companies and working with this. So one thing is it lowers the performance of everyone else because they get frustrated.
Particularly your best employees.
Yes.
It's discouraging.
It's discouraging. And they get frustrated that you're not strong enough to deal with it. So then guess what happens? They're starting to attack your leadership ability.
They start discrediting you or the leaders or the managers or the supervisors.
Like, what's wrong here? Like, why are you not handling this? Okay. What is wrong with you? So your credibility is going, and your trust is going down.
And usually if the boss sees 70% of this person's bad behavior, the other employees see 100% of it. They know what's really going on.
Oh, and
the boss usually doesn't know everything that's going on. They might have a clue, but...
No, I agree. I mean, yes, you're right. Okay. And... that is the thing, is you don't even see it all. And if it's bad in your eyes and you're not doing anything, so then they feel like it's unfair. Sure. You can tell we've done many interviews and lots of this. Well, this isn't fair. How come they get to do this, this, and this? They sit around bickering or complaining and nothing ever happens.
Whining.
And they're whining. Why is that? And then guess what happens? You get people in a bad mood. Right? Because negativity attracts negativity, and then all of a sudden you've got a negative employee talking to your customer. And this is all starting with one.
And a customer calls and somebody's in a bad mood.
Now it's affected your customers. So then guess what happened on one case? We had people leaving because they couldn't stand
Other
it anymore.
Other employees quit.
Your good employees will quit.
Yeah, right.
I know you just figured when you asked me what will happen with a bad employee, I just keep going on because either we get them on the bus, we get them in a different seat, or they get off the bus.
So culture can be something that is endemic to the organization. In other words, lots of people are allowed to do things that are not quite right or that kind of thing, skirting rules or whatever that. And there's also this hurricane employee thing. And the company culture article mentions a couple of companies that in Uber had some issues where they weren't, their culture was toxic, according to this. And you've seen some of the news articles about it. And one of the big things that they suggest doing is making sure we do these polls and surveys, and allow people to express their opinions in a non-threatening way.
So if you're interested in the survey, contact us, because it's a wonderful way of. And it's not just one survey; it's a series. Like you do one, and then
it's continuous. It's basically continuous. Right.
It's every week they send a question. It's brilliant. It's one of the products we represent. We searched over the world of what we really like, and this is wonderful. It's located here in Columbus. Teamkeeper, we use it.
Right.
And so if you're interested, give us a call at
306-7922.
So for the survey, so that is interesting. They say to survey.
And the last point on the this culture article is that directors want bosses to judge their subordinates on how we achieve results, not just the results achieved. And so making a profit is a great thing. Hitting your numbers is a great thing. However, if I'm rude to a coworker or rough with other employees or with sub-suppliers or anybody for that matter, if I don't uphold the company's culture and I get good financial results, that's not a good outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be strong enough as a leader to say that's not acceptable.
And it is amazing how, as a leader, that's your job, is to make sure that you are stewarding the culture that you want and not allowing things to happen to your team members that a Hurricane employee could do. So, definitely. And I like surveying often. That is definitely a question. So Pete, let's dig in right back into the Hurricane employee.
Yeah. So if you haven't had one of these, now some of you may have worked in this great workplace that's devoid of all these folks. Well,
and here's my question: does a Hurricane employee ever know that they're the Hurricane employee?
Sometimes.
I think they do. They just have gotten away with it.
Right.
And guess what? When they get away with it, they do it more, and they do it more, and they do it more. And
that's one of our business coach sayings that we could put on a T-shirt: is "You get what you tolerate."
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when we go into businesses, one of the things, what does a coach do? We work with the leadership one-on-one, not only to help guide this process and to understand it, but elevate the culture, elevate profit, elevate, output, elevate behavior.
What you tolerate. Mm-hmm. To help you to go, you know what, you really don't have to put up with that.
Because you know what happens with Hurricane employees, at least I'm thinking of one company we coach, it's not in this city, is they're so valuable that they fear them.
Absolutely.
Well, wait. They do this, and I don't think I can get anybody else to do it, so I'm just going to put up with their nastiness.
Right. I went through this in a workplace years ago when I was not a business coach in a union factory where this one gentleman was one of these employees. However, this person was one of the hardest working employees in the plant.
Yes.
And the supervisors kind of protected them to the point where incidents would happen and they'd get buried. And he was like threatening other employees and doing things to other employees.
It was very hardcore.
And finally, and this happened after one incident, the union president and I got together and interviewed every employee that was involved in this incident together and ended up terminating the employee with the union's approval. It was really amazing, but he wanted him gone too. And after this person was gone, the work got done even better than before, even though the guy was such a supposed superstar.
Right.
Everybody was so happy when he was gone. It was really good.
Right. And and the Hurricane employee, and again, this is Peg and Pete with Business Talk, the Hurricane employee could be that person who is unpredictable, or you might have heard the phrase walking on eggshells. Yeah,
there's some words here from this article. Again, it's the article is called Havoc in the Workplace, Coping with Hurricane Employees. And they use words like toxic, negative, dysfunctional, territorial, sociopathic, demotivating, those kind of things. So they leave a path of destruction in their wake.
And how often have they created this and you make excuses for them?
Right. Oh, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Oh, it'll be okay. They'll be better next time. Or, I don't know if I can. She's in a protective class, or he's in a, I'm not so sure. I'm fearful because of the retribution that may happen.
They create friction. They create drama. Have we ever heard of drama? Tension and hostility among other employees. This happens all the time.
And what's happening is the toxic, or we say, no, it's the Hurricane employee, is they really are hurting the team around them because other people have to deal with this. And that dysfunction is not fair.
Right.
It's not fair. So I think we should talk a little bit. I know we're going to go into this, but I want to talk about how you deal with it.
Well, and this is, again, from a professor at the Carlson School of Management at the University of Minnesota. Research has shown that strong and healthy social networks lead to better outcomes for employees and organizations alike. These negative employees damage not only the people in the network, but also the ties among them, so how well people actually get along with each other. And the funny thing is they start right at the beginning. They say, okay, how are you hiring? And it goes right to the HR department. It's not always the HR department, and especially in mid-sized companies.
Yeah, because it's the managers as well.
Yeah, it's a manager gets a stack of resumes. Studies show that recruiters spend an average of 5 to 7 seconds looking at a resume. So they're sorting.
Right.
Oh, here's the right qualifications, and they're focused on the mechanical things, the qualifications, or maybe the education or the place they worked, and not necessarily what's inside the person's part.
And and a lot of times you might have a gut feeling. So when you are interviewing, one thing we like to put as an evaluation, Pete, you know how we put on there, are they positive or are they negative?
Yes.
Because
overall, in general,
as you're looking, in fact, Pete and I were just on a call yesterday with one of our business owners who was hiring someone, and they said, okay, we had a choice between two people. True
Two
story.
very qualified people.
Two very, very qualified people.
Right.
One a little more qualified for the job with skill, with background.
Yeah, higher level.
Higher level,
Yep.
can step in and start doing the work. The other one, not as much. And he is a very smart man, this business owner. And he said, okay, you know what? The one person, I started getting a vibe of negativity.
Right. His gut was telling him he's not quite as positive as I need. And this gentleman's very positive.
Right. Right. And I don't know that I want to surround myself, even though he has more skill and more background at this moment, he's not as positive as the other person.
I'm absolutely on board with what he said.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so he's going to go ahead and offer it to the person not as qualified, but ability to learn.
Yes.
There's no doubt that this person can learn the job. And it's all because you got to onboard it right at the beginning.
Right. Right.
Okay, so that's one. Okay, so we're talking about the
Yeah,
hurricane
so thinking
employee.
about that, and here's a couple of things, and this is related, is that when you're interviewing, here's some red flags.
Okay, I
to
like
filter
this.
out
Okay.
filter out some of these folks before they get into your organization.
Okay, give me
Let's
the
start
filters.
at the beginning.
Let's do it, Pete.
So here we go. Filter out the bad hires, and it's a deselection, right?
Absolutely.
So, and I mean, number one is your gut says something's not quite right, or they may not fit.
Which is what we were just
Fine,
talking
trust
about.
it.
Trust your
Trust
gut.
it.
Well, your gut is generally your subconscious speaking to you.
And
so
it's
trust
still
it.
important. Yep.
Okay, I
Number
like that.
one is they haven't prepared for this interview. So what makes you want to join this company?
I don't know.
I don't. Oh, you've been in that interview. Holy
I don't
cow!
know.
I don't know.
I guess I don't remember. I had this one. I applied for so many positions. I just don't remember.
Oh, I've heard that on the phone before. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
What do you make here? You should know that
Yes,
already
before you
right?
come in. I like that. Okay.
There's no excuse for showing up without the basic knowledge about the company and the line of business.
Fair.
You don't need to be an expert at it. Just basically, what do they do?
Yes.
Candidate should have questions ready. If they have absolutely no questions, that could be a red flag. No
Right.
questions at all. None.
Right.
And you want to work here for the next 10 years.
Yes. Right.
They have behavior glitches.
So what are some behavior glitches?
So little warning signs. Maybe they were not nice to the person at the front desk.
That could be.
There's a little behavior glitch.
That could be.
Yeah. Or they ate 4 donuts
Or they
when
are
you
a
offered them one.
little ego-driven. I had one that was a little ego-driven, trying to take over the conversation and not listening.
That's a good one. And this is an obvious one for me anyways, lateness to the interview.
Right.
I mean, if you call ahead of time and you're stuck behind a train, maybe you should have left earlier, but at least you
Or
said,
if you get lost and something happened.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
had that, and we're forgiving. It's just showing up late and not acknowledging it. Those are good.
If a candidate doesn't respond to your emails or phone calls quickly, because how you do anything is how you do everything. So
Right.
if they don't do it quickly
Absolutely.
when they don't have the job, they probably won't do it when they have the job.
Good
So when
point.
we get back, we're going to talk about some of these things that you can do to reduce the impact of a hurricane employee and how to prevent it from happening in the first place. This is Business Talk with Peg and Pete.
Could your business use some help? Call 614-306-7922 to schedule your coaching session. 614-306-7922. Now, here's more Business Talk.
So we're talking today about difficult, or the quote was, hurricane employees.
Alan, I love the sound effects.
You have any breaking glass?
Listen to that. Hurricane employees.
That's really good, Al.
That's real sound effect from a hurricane.
That is
Oh,
a
it is?
real.
That's off YouTube there.
Wow, that's scary sound.
That's Puerto Rico.
Oh wow,
Oh,
our most
man.
recent hurricane.
Wow.
So
good.
so
Thank
we
you,
do
Alan.
we do have that happening here in Columbus, Ohio, with employees.
And you won't hear that wind blowing.
Yes.
But it's still causing havoc.
It is
Right?
causing havoc.
Leaving debris in the wake.
And you know what was interesting? I had one manager I was talking to who came to me and said, "I'm having struggles with this. I'm going to give you 2 real quick case studies with a hurricane employee. Yeah. One was more of a perception than it was really a hurricane employee.
Okay.
So she was talking about this one person, and as we were walking her through it, I said, why don't you sit down and have a conversation? Because they really thought that there was something wrong, like that the employee had something wrong with the manager.
They appeared to be harsh?
Yes, they appeared to be not the employee. The employee was more standoffish, not engaged, not communicating, not a team member, going to things, ending up leaving early. So it appeared as if they were not giving 100%.
Didn't want to be involved in social things with the team.
Wasn't engaged. And
right.
They had a really good conversation, and it was interesting because what the manager thought was happening wasn't happening. And what I mean by that, it was and it wasn't. So the first thing is the manager thought that the employee was having trouble with her.
Okay.
When absolutely the opposite
with the
was
manager.
happening. Yes. Yeah. The manager, they were like, this is the best. This is great.
Okay.
Things have been going
I'm
great.
Curious. Yeah.
I mean, so in questioning, let's call Sally. Sally's like, oh, no, it's a quiet person. And sometimes being quiet or an introvert.
People make assumptions about what you're thinking.
Assumptions. Exactly. And so as an introvert, you need to listen to this to realize that. So making sure to speak up. Because if you don't tell your story, people will tell the story for you.
They'll make up a story about you.
So one thing is she was perfectly happy, extremely happy. And one of the things that the reason she would leave early or not really attend is she's shy. And it made her uncomfortable.
Sure. Yeah.
She didn't want to talk to people she usually didn't talk to.
Not everybody is outgoing.
Right. And so one thing we said is, here is the reason people don't do things is either they don't know how or they don't see the value. Right. And as this manager was talking to the employee, we talked about saying, part of your job of being an employee, a great employee, is being able to get along with your teammates, to be able to collaborate, because collaboration increases morale, increases culture, increases production.
And improve results.
And all we're asking you to do is just maybe once a month, stay for the whole time and talk to people. I'm not asking you to do this every day.
You don't have to do it all the time. Or
no. It's just once a month.
Go out for beers every week.
No, once a month. And so it's just such a good story because they didn't understand the expectations of being an employee because they said, oh, well, that's just a waste of time. Look at everybody just talking. Well, we had to explain actually talking and communicating and creating relationships.
Getting to know each other.
Getting to know each other is important in order to act as a team.
Sure.
And they just didn't understand the value.
Okay.
And the manager sat down and explained it. And what you thought was a hurricane employee really wasn't. It was a person who just didn't understand not only the expectations of them, but the reason why they had to be this way. So they weren't really necessarily crabby. They were just not engaged.
So be careful and take your time coming to your conclusions. Make sure you get data and things you've observed yourself.
And make sure that you're giving your expectations of them.
Mm-hmm.
These are our expectations. This is what this is what it is to be a great team member.
And really, that's a good point. And it comes back to a great onboarding process.
Oh, that's a good idea.
In addition to the screening and the hiring process, but when you bring a new employee in, what are your expectations about everything, not just cranking out the work at your desk?
Right. And then when you're telling people your expectations, and here managers and supervisors, you have to make sure you hold accountable people to those expectations. Mm-hmm. So I can't say to Pete, I expect you to be at these meetings and really engaged, and I know it's uncomfortable, but I need you to push yourself to talk to a few people that you don't know once a month. That's all I need.
Yeah.
Now, I got to hold you accountable to that.
Explain the why.
And explain the why. So I don't want to just say that and then let everybody sit in the corner and not talk. I have to hold people accountable.
Everybody needs to do it. Right?
And then I'll absolutely give great feedback when you're saying it.
And there's a business purpose for it.
This just happened. This just happened a few weeks ago. So it was a really good story for the hurricane employee.
Good.
So we were talking about hiring, correct?
Hiring tips, some things that will help you to reduce the chances that you'll bring in one of these folks on is, and the first two red flags were they haven't prepared. And then behavior glitches.
Right, we did. Yes, behavior.
So
glitches.
They wear a pair of bathing suit and a pair of flip flops to an interview.
Yes.
Yes. And then the third one is they can't explain how they learned from mistakes. Now I've been in interviews. We do quite a bit of interviewing.
We do.
It's 2-3 times a month. We're helping people to bring.
If you are looking for someone to bring, if you're saying I am so busy, but I need somebody to help me hire, you would hire us to do that.
We leverage our clients' time to do that. And we've got, thank you, Amy. We have help to do it.
Right.
You want to hire people, just as this from this article again, they can't explain how they learn from mistakes. You want to hire people who are self-aware and they know when they've slipped up and have taken steps to ensure they don't repeat a mistake in the future. A lot of times what Peg and I suggest, and we do this ourselves when we're running the interview, is we ask 4 to 5 very open-ended questions. Tell me a story about, and then you fill in the blank. It could be when you had a conflict with another employee, or you had a service issue with the service you provided and the customer was very unhappy. How did you handle it? And if they can't tell you a story about something like that, there's usually...
Well, and it was interesting. We had an employee, this is at another company, not here locally, that we were having struggles with it. The company had hired them, and they sat down and they just said, hey, we're giving you feedback, and you're not really taking it very well. And they said, well, I don't like being told I do anything wrong. We're like, how did that get through our screening process?
Interesting. So here's more notes on it. If you ask candidates about their weaknesses, they should be able to point out a fault and how they've worked to overcome that fault. I can get disorganized at times. That's why I keep my planner with me and make notes during meetings and then put it on the same page so I can remember what I've committed to or remember what I'm supposed to do.
That's good.
People who can't share such examples likely have a false sense of their own abilities and may not be willing to admit errors on the job. So they could be difficult when you get them in the job. They may not say, oh, it wasn't me, man.
Right. And really, they have to be able to do that. They have to be able to. We ended up letting that person go. She's just not able to take any feedback and adjustments. She took things so defensively and personally, it just wasn't working out.
Okay.
We couldn't handle that. And that should have been in the interview. That should have been screened out. And we realized that.
Yeah. And here's number 4. They're too focused on themselves. We've already heard the saying, there's no I in team. You want to hire people who live by that motto. Pay attention when candidates use the word I too much and don't credit others when citing a team achievement. The conversation shouldn't start to center on their job preferences and expectations either. If candidates initiate talk about salary during the interview, it's a big red flag. Or even in the screening process. It's happened before in screening, too.
Where they talk about salary?
Yeah, right away. We haven't even decided whether we want to bring you in and talk to you.
And you're starting to ask the money.
And you're asking about how many days do I get off?
What's my benefits?
Right.
Yeah, we have been in that. That's just not the way to start. If you're listening and looking for jobs, that's not the way to start.
And the title on that is just too focused on themselves. Because almost all businesses, we got to work as a team, right?
Absolutely. So we're talking about the hurricane employee signs, and then as Pete was talking about, really not onboarding, but interviewing to make sure you filter them out before they get on.
Hire them?
How do we not hire them first?
Yeah. And then last one here is just reference check results make you uneasy. Again, this is the pit of the stomach thing. If your gut, after hanging up the phone with a reference check, makes you a little uneasy, well, listen to it and don't hire them. You don't have to know exactly why. Mm-hmm. It just, if you're feeling uneasy, be careful.
I like that. It's listening to your gut.
Listen to your gut, says right here. And if you think something just isn't right about a particular candidate, investigate further. Or if you don't have the time to do that, don't hire them.
Well, and here's another thing that our teams do that we interview or that we coach through the interview process is to get more than one person. So if it's just you doing all the hiring, get some of your team members. And if you don't have a team member, maybe bring Pete and I in and help.
Have more than one person do it.
More than vetting it is a really great process of making sure you're bringing on the right person.
Plus, more than one candidate has a time, too. We want to have multiple candidates.
This has happened, Pete, before.
Both ways.
Hey, Pete, you're coaching me. I've got the perfect candidate, and I need them now, and I know they're perfect. I'm just going to put them in. We had a company in St. Louis that we coached.
Yes, we did.
And he was sure he wanted this salesperson. I know him. And we said, you're not allowed.
Now, hold on here. Now, you're in a city of well over 1 million people, closer to 2 million, metropolitan. Is this the absolute best person? Well, I don't know. Well, you know what? Let's get some candidates. We'll put this person in with those other candidates, and we'll see if this is the best person in this entire city.
And guess what happened?
And they weren't.
And they were actually, out of all the candidates, they were the worst. And we had 10, didn't we?
Yeah.
We had 10 candidates that we whittled it down through the person that he originally wanted to hire, and he looked at us and he goes, okay, you're right.
You were right. And he doesn't do that easily.
No. Oh, here we go. Hurricane employee. I love it. When we return,
we're going to talk more about having a hurricane employee in your workplace.
Yes. And
how to avoid this and how to deal with it if they're already there.
Now we're going to talk about when we return. They're already there. Now what do we do?
Yeah, now what?
Oh, my gosh.
We call Alan and get the sound effects and play them in this person's office.
Handling the hurricane employee when we return.
All right.
To learn more about today's topic, call 614-306-7922. Now, back to more business talk.
Oh,
there
man,
we
that
go.
is good,
We're
Alan.
liking it.
Yeah, and you get an A+ this week.
He's getting a star in his forehead.
Excellent job. Excellent job.
The hurricane employee. That's what we're talking about. This segment. Now, if you've missed part of it, because I got to tell you, if you're listening, you've got to be wanting to hear. Okay, what is it we do once we have them? And that's what we're going to talk in this segment. We have a hurricane employee. Now, what do we do? Listen to any of our shows in the past or our archive shows, including this, by going to takeactionbusinesscoaching.com.
Correct.
And
if you do want to talk to us, you can give us a call at 614-306-7922.
Okay, Pete. Now, let's say they're listening. They go, I know, Pete, next time when I interview, I'm going to do a better job to filter this out. Or this one.
But you've got one or two, and you know who they are.
And you know
Everybody
who they are.
knows who they are.
And one is too many. I'm just saying, even if you have a large company, one is too many. Because
now it's your wife, you call us and we'll help you through it.
Yes, we will.
Right.
We will. And we have had that happen, by the way. It's my sister. It's my brother.
And it's funny, you said this earlier too, Peg, and it's a quote in here. It says, they may be very bright and were hired into the organization because they have certain backgrounds, experiences, or technical knowledge, but they're not able to work in an integrated team.
Exactly.
They're unproductive narcissists who think about themselves over everybody else. This happens.
This happens.
This behavior happens a lot.
So here's the first thing we're going to tell you. Number one, do not let yourself be held hostage by somebody's talents, by somebody's skill, thinking that you can't find it anywhere else, A, or B, it will take us too long to bring somebody on board to get them up to speed.
Right.
I'm going to tell you right now, that doesn't happen.
Right.
When they leave, you're going to have more relief and more gratitude than the product that they were producing.
So the fact that one productive employee leaves but has been causing problems, the rest of the team is going to go, holy cow, good job.
Right. And guess what?
And it's motivating.
I mean, this has happened
right?
so many times. When I hear this, it's a belief that get out of your head. We can find someone else, number one. They will do just as good, if not better.
Well, listen to this quote. Tim Withers, president and co-founder of Boston-based Parallel Consulting, a management consulting firm that focuses on family-owned and private businesses, describes this employee as the antithesis, the opposite of a team-oriented player. It takes time, energy, and momentum to build a team, and it doesn't happen overnight. We know that. A hurricane employee can undo a year of team building within a couple of weeks.
And I've seen it.
Trash it.
And the impact that they make is so great. It's so great that it's not just with their department, it's everywhere they go.
And they can also be people who create havoc just because, not that they're doing it on purpose, but just because they simply don't fit into our culture. So these open-ended cultural questions that we ask during the interview process are really important to find out whether someone's going to be comfortable in our type of organization.
Well, and that's it. And that's why we say freeing up your future. We are freeing up their future because guess what? If they're that miserable, then they're not happy. We need to allow them to have a life outside of this moment. And when they go somewhere else, they're going to be happier. And stop blaming everyone around us and how you hate this manager, or I don't like how Sarah does her statistics, or I don't feel like, everybody's leaving me out. I don't understand what, everybody else, you're always doing everything for everyone else. Those are whiners. And if they can't turn around, which we want to turn them around, and if they can't.
If you can't, yeah.
Then you free up their future.
So one of the points they make here is it's important for a company to be honest with themselves about their culture, particularly before the hiring process starts.
That's good.
If you're in a company where hard driving culture, where frank feedback and setting really challenging goals and pushing people to meet them, if that's your type of culture, that may be difficult for someone who's kind and sweet and a little slower paced. That may be difficult.
Correct.
You got to be open about that and say, you know what, that really isn't going to work too well. This person may become frustrated. Or the opposite could be true too.
That actually happened in a company just recently that we coach, Pete. And we had one slower paced person, and it's a fairly fast paced company. And everybody else was fast paced. Now, this slower paced person, I have to tell you, it was just a genuine joy. I wouldn't say genuine joy. I would say not a hurricane, but genuine.
Yes.
And not awful on the team, but bearable, but not a contributor, but we could put up with her. And then we had a certain role for her because of her slow pace.
Yeah.
She was really good at certain things. So we put her on a different seat on the bus. Now, her vision of where she thought she should be on the bus was not the same as ours. So
okay.
we're like, hey, you need to be in B when you're doing this. And she said, no, I want to be A, and I want to be the boss. And she just wasn't capable, nor was her, she didn't match the culture or the
Right.
position. And then she ended up freeing up her future by leaving.
Going somewhere else.
Because she didn't see it as a fit. But sometimes the fit is in a different position as long as they see it. So keeping that in mind. So as we're Pete, this is Peg and Pete with Business Talk, and we're talking about the hurricane employee, the impact it has on your culture. We talked earlier about the culture, and then we talked about making sure that the interview process gets these people out. But now they're in. Now what do we do?
You know, the other thing it mentions in here is discounting emotional intelligence. Now, this emotional intelligence concept was brought out in a book by Daniel Goleman in 1995, so it's been around for a while, but only in the last 10 years or so has it become really to the forefront, where we're using emotional intelligence to hopefully get people in a job that they really fit in.
Right. And that's one thing you can do that we've done is when we do have a problemed employee and you feel that they're worthy of saving, is we coach them through education.
Yeah.
So coaching them through increasing their business or their emotional intelligence, increasing their ability to understand leadership. And you can bring us in. That's generally not why we coach for troubled people.
Right.
But if you have somebody and they're like, okay, I think they'll respond to you because they're open to learning, willing to change,
Yeah.
and they follow through. If they do those things, then coach them out of it.
Right. And if they're, as long as they're willing, like Peg said, and they want to be able to learn and apply those learnings, they'll get through it.
Okay, so Pete, I want to recap just what some of the things that we said. So we say, okay, now, just in this segment, we said, okay, now you have this hurricane employee in here. What are some of the things that we do with it? One, earlier we talked about
interviewing well,
interviewing,
screening
right.
well,
Yeah,
preventing it from happening in the first place.
Right,
But you've
so-
got them already.
Yeah, so now we have them. So we said mentioning the rules of the game or my expectations of you.
Right.
So
Right.
setting that.
Reminding employees that it's not only the mechanical tasks that you're getting done, whatever their role is, it's about getting along with your teammates and how you treat each other. And that's one of the more common ones is these employees tend to have rough relationships with coworkers. They're abrupt or they're mean or they're loud or whatever it happens to be, where they're abrasive with people.
So
And getting along with others is a key part of being a team member.
So that would be great. Expectations, number one, is what you're saying, and I like how you describe that. And then you're basically saying you're going to hold them accountable, because we talked about getting the T-shirt that says what you get is what you tolerate.
Yep. And I've been through this before with employees where this employee says, well, you know what, I'm hitting all my goals. Look at my numbers. I'm getting this stuff done, and they are. And what they've got to understand is that how their team members feel about them and their relationship with others is just as important as the numerical results.
That is, so expectations is key, accountability key. Making sure, here's two other tips. One is making sure that they all get together as a team. Like we call it an alignment. Pete and I go in and we'll do an alignment with your team.
Right.
It could be a couple hours, it could be a few hours, where we get everybody on the same page, and that really helps too.
So clarity on goals, clarity on the culture that the company is driving for. We generally have a good idea what type of culture we want, but in a lot of cases our culture isn't quite there yet. So we've got to describe to employees what we really mean when we say we'll treat each other with respect. Well, what does that mean?
Well,
and talk about it.
That's exactly where you're getting at, is we also have to teach them. We have to educate an employee on what it is like to be, like, you have to teach them emotional intelligence. You have to teach them behavior modifications and adapting. So coaching and teaching an employee on how to do it, not just pointing out what to do, but how. And a lot of times that segment gets really missed in companies. Well, I just told him to stop being crabby. I told him to stop doing the emails. Well, how do they do that?
Yeah, right. Sometimes they don't even know. Their previous culture may have been normal.
Right. And
we've been with people like that.
Absolutely.
They worked here and they did that all the time.
And then making sure that when you do see progress, of course,
positive reinforcement.
Right. And then if you've given it enough time, and then it's time to cut bait. We need to cut.
To make a change. If they don't want to change or can't
if they can't change.
Can't do it.
And I have to tell you, it will. There's so many times that we've done that in a company, and the amount of happiness soars with everyone. So,
yeah, and I will, again, back to this article, it said the other employees can feel like that the leader is letting down the team.
They will feel
They're
that
initially
way.
irritated with the employee, and then they start getting irritated with whoever could change the employee or fix the employee.
Agreed.
And that irritation goes up.
Agreed. So if you've been listening to the show, it's going to be, if you go to takeactionbusinesscoaching.com, you'll hear the show in its entirety because we're going to throw this on the website. And we want you to not just, if you're an owner, have your managers listen to it. If you want us to help guide you through this, we can help with culture, improving culture, with increasing production, with helping with alignment, making sure everybody's on the same page. Listen to our tips of not only onboarding, but also hiring, but also once they're in there, the changes you need to make. And I would start, one of the things is with a culture assessment, because that will really help the measurement of everything you're about to do, even before you do it, because you'll see the impact.
Yep. And just a couple more notes here from this article. Some companies like Southwest Airlines, which most of us have flown on, they make it explicitly clear to employees who verbally, emotionally, or physically damage others are not part of the team and you're not welcome.
I love that.
There's a boundary beyond which you don't go.
Okay, so
and
listen to that.
Verbal, emotional, or physical damage, obviously you slap somebody, but verbally or emotional abuse is not tolerated,
and
ever.
I'm going to tell you, I've been in a company that the employee is still there, and the emotional abuse that she is having on another impact, this is not anybody here, but she just refuses to talk to her for days.
Yeah, that's emotional abuse.
That's emotional
wrong.
abuse.
That's
and
wrong.
they say, well, I didn't say anything. And I said, well, you know what? Not saying anything is the same
it's
as yelling.
Right.
That it's both
It's yelling in a
responses.
different way.
It's yelling in a different way, and that is not okay. And
Right.
we're allowing it.
Right.
And so when are you going to stop allowing things so that your team is good?
And just a reminder to the managers, leaders out there is that teammates, the team members, the peers of this hurricane employee, they may not have the power to respond to a negative team member. They don't have the authority to change it. You do. They don't. And they're looking to you for help.
So I guess your homework is this: listening to the hurricane winds behind us. As your coach for this last
and they
hour.
seem to be getting stronger, Peg.
Yes, as your coach for the last hour, what Pete and I are saying is, what are you going to do to make sure your hurricane employee either goes away voluntarily, coached out of it, or you get rid of it? That's your homework.
Excellent.
This has been Business Talk, your business, your success. Sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed were those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given was not intended to replace that of your business advisor. For more information about the topics discussed today, call 614-306-7922. 614-306-7922. Tune in next week at this time for more Business Talk, your business, your success.